everybody. This is morning coffee.
It's time to pour it, stir it up, and serve it up. This is the Morning Coffee Podcast Show, your unofficial wake-up call. Here to help you live your best life and revolutionize your relationships, faith, inspiration, and love. Start your day the right way with Morning Coffee. Here's your host, Tanisha R. Atkins.
Good morning. You are tuned into the Morning Coffee Live Show. I am the host, Tanisha R. Atkins, back with another great episode for you this morning, another faith-filled episode for you this morning. If this is your first time catching my podcast, I would like to welcome you over to Morning Coffee and let you know that Morning Coffee is your unofficial wake-up call on a mission to provoke you to change and spiritual growth so that you can live your best life and revolutionize your relationships. Well, as you know, for those of you that tune in and catch us every morning live at 6:30, we are coming to the end of season 3. I know it has been a great, amazing season. All season long, we have been talking about how to take your life off of the repeat cycle. This has been such an amazing season. I do want to encourage you to go back and catch episodes all the way starting. Go back to season 1 if you can. Season 1, season 2, and season 3. And I guarantee you that you will hear something that will boost your life, that will motivate you, that will encourage you, and give you some nuggets to help you to live your best life. Well, this week we have been taking a look at some of the greats from the Bible, some of the people from the Bible. We have been taking a look at their life, taking a look at their mentality, taking a look at how they handle certain situations. And so we're going to continue on today. So just a little quick recap. We talked about Eve and how the serpent was able to deceive her and by making her doubt and waver what she knew was to be true. We also talked about on yesterday how he tried to do that with Jesus. He tried to get Jesus, to question who he was. If you really are the Son of God, just jump and, let God catch you. But the thing about Jesus is he handled it. He wasn't like Eve. He did not get deceived. He was on it. He was sharp. He immediately responded back with the word and then eventually telling him to move around. So today we're going to continue with our chat, and today's going to be a great show. Let me just say that right off the back, because today we're going to talk about Lot, Abraham, and Lot's wife. And I know you probably say, well, I've heard the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. The whole situation with the city being destroyed and Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. But we're going to back up a little bit. We're going to take a look at some events that happened before they got there, because warning always comes before destruction. So I want to talk about that today. So first, let me just kind of catch you up for those of you that may be like, who is Abraham? Who is Lot and his wife? So let me catch you up a little bit. So Abraham, he is from the Bible, of course, and Abraham is known as the father of many nations. If you Google Abraham and you kind of go back in Genesis and read the story, you'll see that Abraham was one of those people that had a close relationship with God. Abraham walked with God. He talked with God about everything. And they just had a great relationship. Abraham was the one who his wife Sarah couldn't have a baby. And then God came and was like, you're going to have a baby. And they were like real old. And, God was able to do that for them, give them a baby even in their old age. So very interesting story of Abraham, and I'll check it out when you get a moment back in Genesis. But let me tie it up for you to let you know how him and Lot was related. Now, Abraham and Lot were cousins, and initially, it came a point where God had told Abraham that it was time to, move around from his family. It was time for him to branch out. And so Lot was the cousin that went with him. And as you hear me kind of recap these events from the Bible, I want you to kind of think about your own life, okay? So Lot went with him. And, the two, they did well. They were successful. Where it came to a point where they both had too much stuff. We know the story, most of us. They had too much stuff, and it was time for them to separate. So Abraham went one way and Lot went the other way, okay? And so with that, then time went on. And then the Bible talks about how the place that Lot chose to live, that was really a wicked place. And right here, I want to kind of stop right here before I continue on, because when I read that, I started thinking about it, because when they came to the decision at the point where they knew that they needed to go separate ways, Abraham told Lot, you go ahead and pick first. So Lot, he surveyed, he looked at the land, he looked at all the directions, trying to figure out, where do I want me and my family to live? So then the Bible talks about how he picked, what appeared to be a good place, looks like healthy grass, healthy land, because he had a lot of cattle and stuff like that. And so he picked. So the thing about after Lot picked, now I want you to pay attention to this. Then Abraham, after Lot picked, Abraham began to communicate with God. And God was able to show Abraham, okay, this is what Lot picked, but look everywhere you are. God began to talk to Abraham about where he would dwell. And I thought that was very interesting, because the Bible never says that Lot stopped and prayed and said, okay, Lord, this is before me. Which way should I go? But he looked out of himself and he decided for himself that this place, which happens to be right outside of the great Sodom and Gomorrah city that we hear about all the time, that this is where him and his family was going to dwell. And so, then Abraham, I love it right there, because right there, you can see right there the difference. Because what Abraham picked, him and God communicated. God and Lot did not have a conversation according to the Bible. So moving on down the line, how did Lot get in this trouble? What happened at this city that Lot picked? Because up until that point, he was very successful. He was rolling with Abraham. Excuse my term. I hope y'all are okay with me just being myself on here. But we all have cousins that we hang with or have hung with as children, and then it comes to the point where you kind of outgrow each other. That's basically what was happening with Abraham and Lot. They just outgrew each other. That didn't mean that they didn't love each other. They just outgrew each other. So needless to say, we fast forward down the line. Lot got into some trouble, him and his family. Abraham heard about it, and Abraham came to the rescue. He was like, no, this is not going to happen to my family. No, okay? So he rescued them, and then fast forward down the line again. And then the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, the Bible already talks about, like right after Lot picked where he was going to live or dwell with his family, it's funny that the Bible says how wicked it was there. And I just feel like if Lot, going back to, if he just would have had a conversation, maybe he should have asked Abraham, because it just seemed like to him this was the place. But when you see how the city ended up being destroyed, maybe that wasn't the best place for them to live. So fast forward, all this time has passed, and there's just so much wickedness just going on in the city. I think that they were worshiping other gods, and some homosexuality and different things like that was going on at Sodom and Gomorrah. So God had set out to destroy it. Back then, God didn't play. It was like, look, y'all doing too much. We're going to have to go on, destroy this city. I'm not saying God said that. I'm just paraphrasing. Okay, so when Abraham, because Abraham and God had a relationship, God was able to say to him and let him know what his plans was. And so Abraham then, began to say, okay, Lord, will you destroy the city of this many people? I think Abraham began to just kind of plead on Lot's behalf, like, hey, I know my cousin is there, so I have this relationship with God. Let me talk to God and say, wait a minute, God, because before you destroy it, and because of their relationship, God sent the angels over to, get Lot and his family out, because the Bible says that God and Abraham were friends. So he goes and The angels tell him, you need to get your family out. You need to get your family out. And the thing about it is, this was not Lot's first encounter with trouble going on in this city. Because remember, I told you Abraham had to rescue him before, when him and his family had got captured. So here we are again. Now here come Abraham to rescue you again, because it's obvious that the place you're in is not a good place. Why didn't Lot see that? If you go back and read Genesis, it goes into more details. I don't really have time to read all of it to you. But you would think after the first encounter when Abraham had to come get him, that Lot would say, okay, no, we're going to go ahead and move a little closer to Abraham. And so I'm wondering how many of us are doing that. How many of us, or we talking about taking our life off the repeat cycle, how many of us are returning back to troubled places and people having to keep rescue us? So you want to take your life off the repeat cycle, you got to get real about why you're repeating things. Okay, so let's fast forward. Let's go back. The thing about it is, even when the angels showed up to get Lot and his family, the Bible talks about how they were hesitant. God has sent a warning. God has sent angels over here to get you and your family out, and they were hesitant. And it came to the point where the angels literally almost had to throw them out of the city, because they were, I'm going to say, holding on to the familiar, not wanting to change, not yielding to the change. I'm pretty sure they saw all the wickedness that was going on in the city. Why continue to stay there? He knew that God and Abraham had a relationship, but I don't think that Lot spoke to God the way that Abraham did. And it just reminds me that sometimes we can depend on other people to talk to God on our behalf instead of developing our own relationship with God. So remember, I want you to put yourself in this situation to think about your own life. And so needless to say, finally, the angels had to, again, almost practically throw them out of the city for them to move forward. And then the angels gave them instruction. Hey, this city is going to be destroyed. I need you to get your family to safety. And I need you to don't look back. Do not look back. They were very clear about the instruction. And we all know the story of how Lot's wife, she looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt. So now we've kind of talked about Abraham. We know Abraham was a friend of God. Abraham heard from God. Abraham and God were close. Abraham was able, he stayed in communication with him, right? So you see the difference. And then Lot just seemed like he was just like, look, I just, I'm not going to say he just didn't care, because I don't know Lot, but I'm going to say he was not in tune with God. Maybe he knew of God, like many of us know of God, but we don't know God in a close relationship way where he's involved in our everyday life. So needless to say, after practically being kicked out of the city, here comes Lot's wife now. They had already got them to safety. They were out of the city. The city was already destroyed. And we all know how she looked back. And let me tell you what I believe her looking back represented. I believe that her looking back represented when we're in a season of our lives of things are going wrong, things are chaotic, and we're crying out to God and we're saying, God, we don't know what to do, it's a lot going on, and God rescues us, or he sends someone to rescue us, or he moves on our behalf, and then we turn around to go back the other way. I believe that she was stuck between two seasons. I believe that God moved them to a new season, and I believe that she was still looking back at the old season, and she self-destructed. And I am telling you, that's what's going on with a lot of us. You want to know why life is hard? Life is tough at times, but sometimes we are self-sabotaging because we are either not in tune with God, like Lot. I don't believe Lot was in tune with God like Abraham. Or we're constantly looking back at situations that God has brought us out of. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is my second time actually coming in and recording this episode. I recorded a longer episode of this, and if you want to check that out, I will make that available to you as well. I'm going to go ahead and publish that one as well, because I'm kind of giving you the shorter version for the sake of time. But if you want to hear more of it, check out the episode following this one just to hear more, me go more in detail. But Abraham, I just want you to take a look at the difference and how your life is when you walk with God, when you experience God, when you encounter God, when you commune with God, versus when you're just out here making random choices because you think it's best. And that's what Lot did. Lot did not ask God again. And just think about your own life. What decisions have you made and you left God out of them? And then when you got over there, it was hard. It was tough. And it feels you're stuck and you're overwhelmed and you feel hopeless. And back up and say, did I ask God about working here? Did I ask God about moving here? Did I ask God about marrying this person? We have to get real. You want to get unstuck. You want to be moving. You looking at other people's life. They're thriving. They're doing well. You want to live like that too. Then you have to get real. And you have to ask yourself, how did I get here? And how do I get out of here? It's not as life. I always say this. That life is not as hard as we make it. It's as hard as we think it is. There are times when you go through hard things, because the Bible gives us instruction about that. When you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, don't fear no evil, for God is with you. So we know we're going to face hard things. And Lot faced the hard things. But even in that, Lot may not have had a close relationship with God, but his cousin did. And I want to say this as well in closing. If you are one of those that's relying on your mom or your grandma's relationship with God, that's only going to hold you for so long. You need to have your own relationship with God, because what if they can't get to you? What if Abraham couldn't get to Lot? What if God never exposed his plan to him and say, I want to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? It's not Abraham's responsibility. It was his responsibility to make sure that Lot heard from God or was where he needed to be. That was Lot's responsibility. Lot was responsible for him and his wife and his children. But thank God that he's merciful and that he did love Abraham the way that he did. And because of his love and relationship with him, he was able to show grace to Lot. And again, even in that with his wife, like, it's just that looking back. You got to stop looking back. Whatever is behind you is behind you. You asked and begged and pleaded God to get you out of the situation. What are you looking over there for? There's nothing back. Moving forward. So this is a little longer than I normally do on Morning Coffee. And like I said, it is a longer version to this. I've really been trying to cut this message short because there's so much that I want to say and pertains to this message, because we got to get it. We have to stop blaming God when our life is being, the walls in our life are falling down. Our relationships are crashing. Because some of the relationships, God didn't even tell us to get in. And this is what I'm saying. God never told Lot to move there. And Lot never asked God, should he move there? Okay? So I'm going to leave you with that. We've been talking about the greats. I want you to connect with me on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Morning Coffee Live Show. And let me know what you thought about today's episode. And I want to encourage you to go back to Genesis. Read about Adam and Eve. Read about Abraham. And really look in and see what you can take from their life and find yourself. Are you Lot or are you Abraham? Or are you Abraham's, or are you, and I really should have put Abraham's wife in it, but we'll talk about her later. So who are you? Are you Abraham? Are you Lot? Or are you Lot's wife? Are you looking back? Are you stuck and don't want to move? Or are you communing with God for your next step? And I'm going to leave y'all with that this morning. I will see y'all tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow. I'm Tanisha R. Atkins. Have a great day. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast but didn't know where to start? Well, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor is your one-stop shop for podcasting. They have tools that you can edit, add music, all right from your phone or your computer. They'll even distribute your podcast so that it can be heard everywhere, like Spotify, Apple, and even on Google. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Every day I wake up with purpose, starting my day with faith and inspiration. Wouldn't have it no other way. Live, laugh, love. Let's make the world better. Give somebody a hug. Let's bring the world back together. With morning coffee, let's have morning coffee. Morning coffee. Start your day with faith, inspiration, and love. Start your day with faith, inspiration, and love.